everyone. I wanted to spend a couple of minutes giving you a little bit more information about our assignments. I'm going to start with a conversation about your personal preparation and participation, the group work or group participation, and then I'll speak a little bit about the class journal and the response papers. This is an informational for all three of my classes. So for specific requirements, page length, word count, etc., you're going to need to review your specific terms of reference. Okay, so attendance. I ask that you come to class regularly, that you get to class on time, and that you keep your camera on. This is because we are attempting as best we can in this virtual environment to maintain a class-like experience. And that means seeing each other, that means talking to each other and engaging with each other, and that means the fewer disruptions as possible. So not coming in and out of class or turning your camera on and off and on and off. If there's some reason where you cannot have your camera on, simply let me know ahead of time. I can be understanding, but I do ask that we keep our cameras on. If you're uncomfortable sharing your background, or letting other people know where you live or anything like that, there are privacy concerns that are very, very real. Please feel free to use the background filter available on Zoom. You can also go online and download any picture that you want, and you can put that as your background as well. Within reason, of course. So I want to spend a couple minutes talking about your participation. And so this is where you come to class ready to talk, ready to think, ready to engage, ready to share your ideas and respond to other student ideas and other student comments. If you are a shy student, you might consider a particular moment in the text, a quote, a theme, a concept that you really want to talk about or that you feel efficacious, right? Where you feel like you'll actually be able to talk through something in a way that is comfortable and is clear. So you might want to write that down ahead of time, and then when it comes to class, you just read what you wrote, or you can send that to me in a group chat or a private chat, and so then we can read your question from there. So there are different ways of participating. There's verbal participation. You can use emojis. I think we have like thumbs up, thumbs down. I think there's something, I don't know. And then I think there are other emojis as well. And then you can use the chat feature to engage with the class that way. I do ask that you remain engaged throughout the course. So that's just not one day, but our entire semester. So we often start out with amazing energy. We're ready to go. And then halfway through, we're ready for fall break. We don't get a fall break this year. So when I ask that you remain engaged, I understand there might be weeks where you're kind of checked out, where you're not fully there, but taken as a whole, you come to class regularly, ready to engage, ready to talk, ready to think. And then finally, within participation, you also want to make sure that you're posting what the meme with a comment that has a detailed description, or your comment is a detailed description rather. So what the meme is your response to the reading for the week in a meme or GIF form. You can meme yourself. You can create a little GIF of yourself where you're moving around. The easiest way to do that is with a boomerang. Or something like that, a 2 to 4 second little video. And so the meme will be representative of a particular moment that you liked or didn't like or were confused by. It can be the topic that we're talking about. I mean, really the sky is the limit. But you'll post that to the What the Meme section on Moodle. All of this will be open as of Sunday, the start of our first official week for you to participate and post. And then you just each week you'll go in and you'll post your what the meme, and then you'll add a detailed description. And again, for the word count, please see your specific terms of reference. So what you want to do is you want to respond to the imagery that you're posting. You want to explain to your classmates and to myself as well, why did you post this? What is the image telling us? How were you responding to it? Why did you pick that specific image? And how does it relate directly to the readings? And then you want to come to office hours. Office hours are throughout the week, sorry, and I have different times for different classes. But the link is available both on Moodle and within the syllabus. So you just click on that, and then it'll take you to my calendar, and then you'll be able to book specific appointments. I did extend the appointment time to 30 minutes rather than 20 so that we have a little bit more time. In order to get your 25 points, you really can just come and say, you know, I'm here so I don't get fined. I'm here so I get my 25 points or 30 points or 15, whatever the point value is. I'm just here so I get those points to increase my attendance participation in office hours grade. So we talked a little bit about group work in terms of preparation and participation in our session last week, but I wanted to take a few more minutes to help you really think about and work through what group work is. So group work encompasses a couple of different aspects or a couple of different things. One, you're going to be talking with your group about the readings. What did you think? What did you like? What didn't you like? What were you intrigued by? What made you question something that happened? How does your personal life or the world around you relate to our readings this week? And how can we really think about how we all participate within this system? How do we all participate with gender, with sex, with sexuality, with class, with education, with race, with religion, right? All of these things that make up our lives. And how does that impact how we understand or engage with the world? And so your group is your chance to do that asynchronously throughout the week. You also will annotate or deconstruct your weekly readings. You can do it outside of perusal, but I do suggest you try perusal first. So perusal keeps track of all of the comments made within your specific group. So you won't see comments made by other students. You'll just see your group mates' comments. And so that way it's not overwhelming. There aren't 20 different questions or 20 different comments that you're attempting to respond to. So you can say, oh, here's what I thought this particular aspect of the group is about, or this reading was about rather, and then your group mate could say, oh, okay, that makes more sense now. I didn't read it that way. Here's how I read it. So you're creating the conversation that you would have had synchronously if we were in class, but you're doing it asynchronously. I also suggest that you meet with your group. And that could be through Zoom, Google Hangout, FaceTime. I don't know what crazy kids are using these days to communicate with each other. So maybe you send each other TikTok videos with interpretive dances and how you're responding to the reading. I'm joking. I don't think that's what you'll do, but really you want to create something that your group will feel comfortable using as a means and a mode to really engage with your readings. So each week in your group, you'll create a post. If there is an exclusion, 1 week you don't have to do it. Make sure you check out the syllabus. And in your post, you're going to summarize main points and concepts. You're going to include a quote or several quotes, again, depending upon your terms of reference, that you found interesting, or a place where your group needed a little bit more clarification. And then you're going to include some ideas that outline the group's thoughts on the readings, right? So it might be 1 to 3 or 2 to 5, whatever that might be. But a couple of sentences or a paragraph, I'm not, again, this is specific to each class. The terms of reference are, and this is general. So whatever it might be, we'll say 3 to 5 sentences that outline the group's thoughts on the reading. So your thoughts could be in relation to the main points or concepts. Your thoughts could be in relationship to the quote that you're talking about, right? So you'll summarize the main points and concepts. You'll include 1 or more quotes that you found interesting or a place you need clarification. And then you'll include whatever the specific class guideline is, paragraph, sentences, whatever that might be, that outline your thoughts, your group's thoughts on the reading. So each one of those need to be there. So you don't have to work harder. You can use points 1 and 2 to build up to point 3, that 3 to 5 sentences, 300 words, whatever it might be. And you'll also want to include a screenshot of your annotation or however you all shared your document. Maybe you had a Google Doc and you all took notes in the Google Doc. You just want to take a real quick screenshot and include that with your original post. That's just like a check-in. Yep, we're doing this annotation of our reading, and then we're also doing this other thing over here. And a different person can upload it each week. Each group has their own folder where they'll be uploading these to. So you can take turns. Week 3 is one person, week 5 is another person, or one person always uploads it, right? This is based upon your group's dynamics. Okay, so now we're going to talk a little bit about the main assignments. There are a couple of main assignments that you will be engaging with, and they are the journal, class journal, and response papers. So each class has their own specific journal requirement. So I'm going to say that we're posting 1 paragraph a week, just for my example. But again, check the terms of reference for your specific class's requirements for the assignment. So you're going to keep a journal that outlines your progression through the course. It'll be the foundation of your portfolio or the final project for the class. It also can be a foundation for your response papers, anything like that. So the journal outlines your thoughts, your ideas, how you move through the course, and the progression could be, I don't think that gender is a construct. It's just something that is natural and innate to us. And then in week 4, after we've talked about how this is an example for intro, when we've talked about how different cultures have engaged with gender in different ways, and historically, if we go back, 400 years or more, we'll see that a lot of societies European expansion, colonization, and colonialism, we'll see that like gender looked differently. What does that mean? And so if that's the case, is it that gender is actually natural and innate, and that it always expresses itself in terms of this binary, whether you're either masculine or feminine, or is it much more complicated than that? And so your progression would be like, oh, I always thought it was this, and now I realize it's not. Or your progression could be, I understood class as a socioeconomic status to impact one's education in this way. And now that I've gone through these readings, I realize, oh, wow, that's absolutely not the case. Or it could be something as simple as, I thought I had all of the answers, and I realize now I don't. I don't think any of you think that you have all of the answers, but that is something, right, that you might want to think about, how you orient towards knowledge and the production of knowledge and whose forms of knowledge count, right? And so your journal is just your way to kind of puzzle through all of that stuff. I suggest you spend some time critically engaging with the text, deconstructing the text, thinking about it, responding to it, and then spend a little bit of time actually reflecting. Before I read this reading, I thought this. After I read this reading, I thought X, right? So, and maybe it's the exact same thing, or maybe it's slightly different, who knows? But the reason why it's a foundation of your portfolio or the final project is because you can return to it and have your journal guide the final project that you select. It can guide the topic that you choose or what you might be interested in. It can also guide your response papers. And so we'll talk a little bit about response papers in a second. But I just want to make clear that your journal is yours. I will never grade your journal based upon the amount of aha moments that you have. I will never grade your journal based upon how closely you approximate what you think this class's belief system or ideology might be. Right? So you don't have to prove that you're woke. You don't have to demonstrate that, you think sexism is a bad thing or everybody should be feminist. That's not the purpose of this class, and it's definitely not the purpose of this journal. The purpose of the journal is really for you to interrogate how you understand the world and how the readings help you navigate that space. Okay, now response papers. So there are 2 response papers that critically engage with course content and 1 that considers your time within the class. So the 2 response papers that critically engage with course content are specific to readings, right? So each class has their own amount of readings that they have to respond to. 2 readings, 4 readings, 8 readings, 25 million readings, however many readings, you gotta include them. So let's say you're in a class that has 6 readings that you have to respond to. It feels like a lot and it feels overwhelming. But if we think about it, that's what, 2 or 3 weeks worth of readings? That's actually not that much. And if you've been writing in your journal, you already have a really strong understanding of what those 2 to 3 weeks of readings were. Further, if you were critically engaged with your group, you have documents, right? You have PDFs that have been thoroughly edited, where people have, well, edited isn't the right word, but responded to, right? Where people are adding their own thoughts and you've been adding your thoughts and unpacking the readings and deconstructing them. So your response papers already have a roadmap. And so what you're going to do is you're going to propose a question. What is gender? How do I engage with gender? What are methods? Why do we need to outline a method before we engage in a research project? What is praxis, and how do I begin to understand what my praxis is? These are all really big questions, and so you might want to refine some of those questions. So rather than what is praxis and how do I figure out my praxis, you could say, you could focus on a particular mode or way of being or thinking, right? Rather than thinking about gender as an entirety in all of its varying forms, you could think about the history of gender within the context of a particular country or the context of a particular moment. Or you could think about sexuality in the contemporary moment, right? Why are people up in arms over Cardi B and Megan Thee Stallion's song WAP? What is it about that song that bothers people? And that gives you an opportunity to talk about gender, to talk about sex and how they're often related to each other, to talk about patriarchy, and to talk about how sexuality or one's ability to be sexually open and to talk actively about the act of sex is something that we prescribe, or we say is acceptable for masculine presenting bodies whom we also presume to be male. And so there would be lots of readings that would help you get to that point. And so within the response paper, you spend the first paragraph telling me what you're going to do, telling about who you are, you know, the basics of an intro paragraph. And then you want to outline the readings that you're going to be using. I selected these 6 readings for this reason. Each reading allows me, to better answer this question in this way. The first reading does this. The second reading does this. The third reading does this, right? And so you're actively walking me through the logic of your answer. And you're actively helping me understand why you selected those readings. And then you have a conclusion, right? So here's how I came to this answer. I think that the reason why, or I would argue that the reason why so many people had a visceral and negatively visceral response to the song WAP is because X, Y, or Z. So again, in order to figure out how many pages or the word count or how many readings you want to go to the terms of reference, you can always come and talk with me in office hours. You can propose, you can tell me your question and I can say, oh, that's a really great question. And let's think through how you answer it. Or that's a good question, but it's far too big for 2 pages, 5 pages, 20 pages, because you want to make sure that whatever question you propose, because you're proposing the question, you're actively able to answer it within the time or the space that you have for the assignment. And then the last will be a final project. So the final project looks differently based upon the class that you're in, whether it's a research paper, a portfolio, just a portfolio, an art portfolio, a memoir, a video, a website, right? The sky is the limit for some classes. There are a lot of different options. So After October 1st, I will have a guide that outlines the different options and then also talks about the terms of reference associated with each project. So I'll say, so here's what it means to do a portfolio in this class. Here's what it means to do a portfolio in this class, right? So you can think about transitioning your journal into artwork, and then you could have, an art portfolio as the culmination, right? Your project that you can complete at the end of the class, or you could make a song, like actually compose a song if that's what you're interested in. So there are a lot of different options. And depending upon the class, again, it impacts the option and what that option looks like. But you can definitely, take your time on the previous assignments, really mastering them, better understanding them, so that when it comes to the final project and it comes to thinking about what you're going to do or how you're going to respond to it, you've laid the groundwork. So what you want to do is you want to think about each of these assignments. You want to think about your participation. You want to think about your group work. You want to think about your journal and your response papers as things that scaffold, right? As things that build to this final project. So you're intentional in everything that you do so that when we get to the final project, the groundwork has been laid. So that will complete my walking through the different components of the class.